Hello, my name is John Glover, and I am the Director of Artistic Planning for the Kaufman Music Center based in New York City, where we believe that music is essential to the human experience and vital to education for all. I'm thrilled that you are joining us for the first event connected to Lisa Bielawa's Voters Broadcast, which has been commissioned as part of the Democracy and Debate themed semester by the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, with support from its School of Music, Theater, and Dance, and is developed in partnership with Kaufman Music Center. Lisa is one of Kaufman's 2021 artists in residence, and Kaufman is honored to be co-presenter of this project, which includes 3 virtual events today, October 14th and October 28th, as well as a series of in-person, socially distanced performances planned for October 24th in collaboration with the Brooklyn Public Library at their central branch at Grand Army Plaza in Brooklyn, New York. It is my pleasure to welcome Matthew VanBesien, President of University Musical Society at University of Michigan, who will tell you more about this incredible project and moderate today's event. Please welcome Matthew VanBesien.
Thank you so much, John, and welcome to everyone. I'm speaking to you here from Ann Arbor, Michigan, and we're thrilled that you've joined us. We thank John and all of our colleagues at the Kaufman Music Center for all their incredible work on this project. And we're at UMS. We are the multidisciplinary arts presenter based at the University of Michigan. We're a very proud partner of the university, of course, but in this special democracy and debate theme semester and with all the activities and activation around that. So I'm thrilled to be here as a moderator today and to be able to introduce an amazing composer and colleague. She's really not just a composer, she's a vocalist herself. She's a producer. In addition to having won the Rome Prize throughout her career, she's really approached her work as a composer in a very multifaceted way. And if I think about Lisa's work, it's about a very multifaceted way to think about the craft of composition, the way in which composition and performance is delivered, and then maybe even most importantly, the way in which people and society can engage with her work. She was 5 years the artistic director of the San Francisco Girls Chorus, and in fact, that's when we sort of crossed paths in New York a few years ago as part of a New York Philharmonic project. And as John mentioned, she is an artist in residence this year at the Kaufman Music Center. Will you please welcome the composer and creator of the Voters Broadcast, Lisa Bielawa.
Thank you, Matthew. What a wonderful introduction.
It's great to see you, Lisa. You've been working fast and furious these past days. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how this work is put together. I also want to mention to viewers today that you can leave questions and comments in the chat bar on the stream. And please let us know where you're tuning in from. We'd love to know where you're joining us from today. So Lisa, let's just kick this thing off. We don't have a ton of time today to talk about what is a very complicated work. And I'd love for you to just start from the beginning if you could, and also maybe a little bit backing up even before that, because this is not your first broadcast.
That's true.
Sorry for the pun, but tell us a little bit about the origins of this work, Voters Broadcast.
Great. Well, thank you. Yeah. Broadcast is a word that I've been using in the titles of a series of works that are, originally it had to do with the fact that broadcast means to scatter in all directions. So I was doing pieces in massive public spaces where performers would start at the center of, the Tempelhof Airfield or Crissy Field, and they would gradually broadcast, from the center. Right. But it also has come to mean, especially in these times, it's come to mean sort of a chance for sort of the public, the broader swath of public participation through their own words, right? For people to find representation, for the views of a vast variety of people in our communities to broadcast their points of view. And actually, this particular project, Voters Broadcast, was a couple of years in the making. It started when Cheryl Oring and I, who's the artist who is doing the I Wish to Say project as part of the theme semester, the Democracy and Debate theme semester. She and I have known each other for years, and we wanted to to find a way to work together around this kind of synergy that we have with this aspect of public participation in the work. Cheryl's work, and you'll be able to learn more about it over the course of the next month,
Right.
and we're going to post some things about it later too. But she has been, since 2004, she's been doing this project, I wish to say, where she has set up, vintage typewriter sessions with people in public spaces in Bryant Park in New York. And she's been dictating their postcards to the president or the next president. So she's been doing this now for, many years, for 16 years. And when I received an invitation from the National Cathedral, the Cathedral Choral Society at the National Cathedral, to write a piece this year celebrating the 19th Amendment, I thought, well, what a great opportunity. Cheryl and I could do a whole thing around the postcards to the president, right? And so we made this big piece, and called Voters Litany, right, for the Grand Organ Symphony Orchestra chorus, and there was going to be typing sessions around the cathedral, right? And that was scheduled for March 22nd. So as you can imagine, it was canceled or a few days before the performance. But the plan was always then to take that those texts, and I read more than 3,500 of these postcards that Cheryl's been collecting, and that means that these postcards have been written these have been written over the course of time to Obama, to Bush. Right. These are postcards that have been collected over the last 16 years, and also to people during election years. To Hillary Clinton, for example, to the next president. To the next president. So what you're going to hear in the texts here that I've set of from Cheryl's project is you're going to hear people addressing themselves to this vast array, this vast political array of presidents, sitting presidents, and potential presidents that people have been addressing themselves to through Cheryl's project all this time. And in fact, this first part is based entirely on postcards that came in through 2019, right? Wow. And as we go forward in the, so none of the words you're going to hear now are part of what Cheryl's collecting right now. And as we unfold these parts, you're going to start to hear what people are saying right now as part of the democracy and debate. So it's very exciting. And, it's also just been an incredible experience, feeling the direction of this work change and deepen. We were going to have this be a certain kind of project, and suddenly now we're all in lockdown, and creating work in this way has its own challenges. So
it struck me that this project really requires you as a composer to be incredibly not just flexible, but really adept at finding a way to weave together lots of complicated things, but also responding to the moment. Like, we're treasuring our democracy right now. And of course, we had a very interesting debate moment last night. So how that then informs, and how do you respond to that then technically?
Well, I want a quixotic thing, which is that I want the work to remain, broadly inclusive and ambitious in scale and nimble.
Right.
Which is, so all of the skills that I've been developing through this entire time. During lockdown, I created a whole piece, Broadcast from Home. The broadcast, which was a setting of testimonies of people sheltering in place all over the world. And, this process of creating work in this way, which we'll talk about a little bit later, I really have pretty much dedicated myself completely since March 13th. Wow. To finding ways to create community among musicians, and also just among people whose lives have been altered so greatly by this pandemic, and now and by calls for racial justice, and and also now in lead up to the election. These are events that are especially challenging for us to address in lockdown conditions, and that's what I'm interested in overcoming and engaging with.
I think you found an incredibly not just clever, but really authentic way to incorporate the voices. I listened to a great interview that you did on NPR where they were sort of charting the history of pandemic and plague inspired works, which is probably a different part of the conversation, but really talking about your commitment to really giving voice to regular people.
And that's my inspiration. I mean, I'm in Manhattan. You were asking people to say where they are, which is great. I mean, this is my apartment, my studio in Manhattan. And this is pretty much where I was trapped making work for, 5 months over the course of, this is where I was, right here at the epicenter. And I feel the isolation too, so my desire, my need to sort of connect with normal people, but in other words, with a lot of people from everywhere who might be having the same kinds of experiences that I'm having, or who may need to hear from each other, in some way or another. I think we need to hear from each other right now. And that's how this is. I like the work when I create these sort of ways to make the work. I like them to be a place for people to encounter each other's voices and ideas, and to even though we can't be together, we can't gather in a space, right? But we can gather through the work in this way that I'm interested in. That I'm continuously sort of retooling to try to find ways, because this is where we're at for a while now.
This is indeed. So I'm going to ask you a little bit later. We're going to, of course, hear, we're going to have an exciting moment here. We're going to hear the premiere of the first part of Voters Broadcast later as part of this online session. So I'm not going to ask you to tee that up just yet, but I'd love for you to tee it up before we premiere it, if you're willing to. It's so clear that there's not just the participatory angle of this piece, but also, it's highly collaborative as well. And so I think that's maybe a good segue to bring in our colleague, Matt Albert, from the School of Music, Theater, and Dance. And Lisa, I think, are you going to stick around and for these conversations? I think you should. So if whoever's out there controlling this can keep Lisa in the room, that would be great. Matt, we welcome you. This is Matt Albert. He is he's the chair of the Department of Chamber Music for the School of Music, Theater, and Dance at the University of Michigan, a great colleague of ours at UMS, and does extraordinary work there. And Matt, we wanted to talk to you in two ways today, both as a leader at the School of Music, Theater, and Dance at Michigan who's participating in this project, but also as a musician yourself who has participated in the work.
Yes, it's been a pleasure to interact with it at both levels in both ways. And thank you for having me be a part of this discussion today. I'm speaking to you from Ann Arbor as well. I'm in my studio on campus, actually. So the beautiful fluorescent light over my shoulder shows you what our offices are like here at the School of Music, Theater, and Dance. It is a wonderful place to work, and I feel so lucky to be here and working with students in a hybrid format this semester. Particularly, this project was such a wonderful opportunity to connect, as you all were just talking about, for our students here. We have students who are studying on campus, and we have students who are studying from their homes. They decided that it was not in their best interest to travel back to Ann Arbor at this time. And this project allowed them to contribute something for this. I love, Lisa, the way that you wrote these musical phrases and gave instructions, and not just instructions, but almost questions for us to answer through our playing. You empowered us to have a voice and to record things, not trying to tie it to a click track, that kind of beeping that we all listen to when we have been asked to make other multi-track recordings and projects, but rather to play freely and from our heart, trusting you to take that and then use it to put the project together. It was a joy for me to do. I played some of the viola tracks for the first chapter, and it was a real pleasure to do that. And then the sense of getting to hear it put all together when I had heard none of that before was such a revelation, because you go from your inward analysis of this phrase to the outward expression of it with other phrases together. And that is a very powerful and profound kind of instant of connection at that time.
It's interesting because that's one of the things I think that, you guys who are all viewing this now that I think I should sort of explain is that I don't actually finish the piece until the performances come back from people. Right. In other words, there isn't a right way. The reason it's so open is that I do like 60% of the composing, arranging of the thing after the recordings come back. And that's because I found that that's what we all need right now is just play. and to try to line up with our little boxes and make everything work in a way as if we were trying to give the real definitive performance of something that exists outside. There's nothing that exists outside this paradigm right now for us. This is our paradigm. And so making work that exists as something organic to this paradigm has been really key for me. So the more you guys, show me what you got, the more ideas I get afterwards,
Yeah, it was a pleasure to do that. And again, to not knowing and trusting that you would be hopefully inspired by those was a really big part of it for all of us.
Matt, can you talk to us a little bit about the challenges or maybe even opportunities within all those challenges right now with your students at Michigan? You're in charge of chamber music, which in some ways is well suited for this moment or more feasible than some other larger ensemble disciplines. And yet you've got this challenge of keeping musicians connected. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I mean, specifically, as you say, Matthew, with chamber music, if there are limitations for people in a room and it's under 10, then you can do something like a quartet in a room, and you can even have a quartet spaced apart from one another with a coach, and there can be a kind of learning that is very similar to the work that we did pre-pandemic. And that the similarity is what, again, draws students, connects us to why we're here and why we're doing this. That said, I love, Lisa, the way that you were talking about writing something for where we are, not pretending that we're in a different situation. And I think that's really important with the students. One of the things that I have talked pretty openly with the students about is the grieving process that we are all going through. We miss performing live. I miss performing live. I miss going to live performances and being on stage. And so being a part of a project that doesn't ask me to replicate that in a way that doesn't feel authentic is actually more powerful for me, and the kind of thing that I like sharing with the students. Many of the students who performed in this chapter are studying chamber music either virtually or in person here this semester, and they jumped at the chance to be a part of this.
That's terrific. Well, we're excited to have you here. We thank you for your time and all your efforts, Matt, and I know Lisa feels the same.
Yes, absolutely. It's been a pleasure.
One thing we really wanted to do today was not only talk to you, but actually talk to two students who are participating in this project. So I don't know if we're losing you or not, Matt. We may be, but we wanted to welcome Maria and Oriana to join us now.
Hi.
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 Nice to see you both.
You too.
Maria and Oriana, welcome to the Voters Broadcast, this first live event. You obviously have met Lisa before, and we're just thrilled to have you here. I'm wondering if you can just quickly introduce yourselves. Tell us where you're from. Tell us what you're studying at your respective schools.
Okay, so my name is Maria Torres, and I am from Barcelona, from Spain. And I am a first-year master's student in saxophone performance in the University of Michigan, and I am studying with Timothy McAllister.
Fantastic. And Oriana?
Yeah, I'm Oriana. I'm currently a senior at the Special Music School High School in New York City. I study viola and also dabble in voice, and I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Fantastic. And Oriana, you and Lisa have worked with each other for some time, correct? And maybe on different projects.
Yes. I've known Lisa for a long time now. Since moving to New York, we've gotten even more connected. And at the beginning of quarantine, I was supposed to perform on one of her featuring concerts at the Stone at Manus New School. And of course, that same week that we were supposed to perform, everything went into lockdown. So that kind of threw us off a little bit, but we continued working, and I was part of the Face the Music, which is a program at Kaufman Music Center that performs living composers' works by young people. And we were able to work with Lisa and work on her broadcast from home, which is similar to this project, but receiving testimonies from everyone within quarantine, trying to find a voice, trying to understand what's going on. And so we were able to work on that together I was as a violist and as a singer, and as a contributor, which was really exciting. So, and then now this project, which is equally incredible.
And Maria, first of all, for those who don't know, just being a part of the saxophone program at the University of Michigan is a major accomplishment. This is one of the great destinations for saxophone players the world over. So congratulations to you for coming to Michigan. Talk to us a little bit about what it's like for you right now to be a student at Michigan, to be in this moment in which we're dealing with so many different dynamics and challenges.
Yeah, it was very difficult to come here with all the pandemic and the visa problems, but I could get here. So I'm now in Ann Arbor, in my home with my roommates. And it's awesome. We have lots of activities, also with the pandemic restrictions. But we are kind of getting to normality and having some in-person lessons and some Zoom lessons, chamber music too. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I really liked University of Michigan.
And I'd love to hear from you first, Maria, since we're talking with you. Like, what was your experience making or participating in Voters Broadcast? What did this mean for you? Like, did it make sense at first? Did you understand where this was all going? I mean, how has this experience been for you?
Yeah, it was very interesting. And also I had to record the soprano saxophone part. And I tried to find the most expressive way to play the phrases that Lisa wrote. And also as an international student from Spain, I feel this project was like my little contribution to the society. And we were also, we were able to play some chamber music from our homes. So that was really nice. And really congratulations to Lisa and everyone who made this project possible. And I hope everyone likes the final result. It's amazing, really.
That's great. And Oriana, you're kind of a veteran. You're a seasoned pro with working with Lisa. This latest project, I mean, what do you think about this? Like, what impression does it make on you in this moment?
I mean, coming from broadcast from home, where we're talking about our experiences in the pandemic, trying to make sense of things and trying to express ourselves in a way that makes sense, but also doesn't, because you're working from your recording studio at home, which is a pile of books and a tripod and iPhone. Yeah. It's really cool to be able to translate that into what's happening on a larger scale in the country right now, and to be able to contribute to ridiculousness, but also something that is a step in a direction that we've never really taken, and trying to figure out what's best to happen, what's actually going to happen. And it was also really nice. We had a session with Lisa at school in place of orchestra, which was really nice. And it was really nice to hear all of my classmates. And of course, we're all on different varying levels of reality, right? Coming from home. And it's really nice to hear everyone interacting with each other, playing with each other, being confused or finding clarity, and to hear the final product, it's going to be amazing. And having so many voices from one end of the country and the other, bringing to this, and then being able to perform in a socially distanced way eventually, it's really incredible, and I'm really grateful to be a part of it.
Well, I thank you both for not just your participation, but your sort of perseverance in this moment. I think all of us who have the privilege of interacting with students find that we gain the most sense of hope and optimism when we get to hear from you. So we need your voices now more than ever. And
it's incredibly inspiring. Yeah. I mean, you guys, just like this, seeing you here and hearing your sound coming through, this is what really keeps me going too. So I'm really grateful. Very excited.
So thank you both for being with us. Thank you for taking part in this. And
thank you so much.
And good luck. Good luck to all of us. And before I forget, we're going to tee up. We're now at the big moment, really. Yeah. But before I do, I don't want to be remiss in not acknowledging that it's Lisa's birthday today.
Oh, thank you.
And so happy birthday to you. We hope that this premiere and this moment and a chance to talk about it a bit makes this a better birthday for you. And thank you for sharing your time and your incredible vision for this work with all of us today. So we'll come back after we hear part one of Voters Broadcast, but
yeah.
Can you tee this? Are you willing to tee this up a little bit for us?
I am willing to tee this up. I actually think I'd like to set it up because it's part one of a piece that's going to be, that's going to have its own shape later. So you're going to hear the words. The first section is all salutations. The way people start their letters, dear President, dear Mr. or Mrs. President, these kinds of things. But the focus for me is really on, especially with this one, the focus is on what it means to people when they appeal to a leader. What kinds of things are they, what do they say when they're addressing a leader or a potential leader? And so you'll hear the beginnings of what people's actual messages are. And, there'll be more of those to come in the weeks to come. So.
Fabulous. Well, let's now hear the premiere composition, Voters Broadcast by Lisa Bielawa. Wow. Thank you. That was part one of Voters Broadcast by composer and producer Lisa Bielawa. I have a lot of feelings about that. And I was thinking immediately throughout that, reminding myself that, as you mentioned earlier, that these were taken from postcards written all the way from 2004
yes.
through 2019. So I think sometimes we think that we're living in this completely unique period, and yet there's some strange continuity to it, which you must have found looking through those postcards.
It's interesting. I mean, I remember, when Cheryl and I were talking about this, and I flew out to Detroit, and read through her entire archive there. And I was just so touched by how many, I started weeding out every time someone said, please, you don't know which president they're talking to here, but people are the vulnerability that people feel in relationship to their leaders, and their desire to have somebody who's one of them and to help to be led forward, in a meaningful way, is a constant.
Yeah. I was struck by, and I know that there's complexity in all of this for you as composer and also the architect of the work, both the sense of ensemble and tidiness, if you will, and its untidiness. And I was thinking about the parallels with democracy itself.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit. You don't necessarily have to tell us exactly how the sausage is made, but sort of. But how do you think about that?
What I've learned is that through the Broadcast from Home project is that it actually helps for me to open the aperture of uncertainty a little wider. So I'll say, just give me a tempo around this or that, because the onus is on me to create materials that will work together meaningfully in a number of different ways. So depending on what comes back, then I can start working through it, seeing what I find and figuring out what works with what. So it's a much more intuitive process. With these phrases, I had already had the Voters Litany for the cathedral that was about to be premiered, right? But then it was a matter of uncomposing that material that had been created into a symphonic score, a traditional score, and removing it from that form and making it making it into an instrument for our paradigm. And that was, it's, in what other arenas are we doing that right now? Every arena of our lives, right? Yeah. So.
Well, it's really striking work, and I think it was already going to have an impact, and yet somehow today it feels like it has even greater impact. So I think that's a real testament to you and to art in this time.
Thank you, Matthew. I really look forward to seeing what these next typing sessions that Cheryl's having, comes, and that's going to be integrated, and so that'll be very interesting.
So we have a couple of quick things to do before we go into this first session. So I want to remind everyone, first of all, thankfully, we have 2 more sessions to really dig deep into this work. And I think all of you who are watching and listening today can already sense how much more exploration we can do. So on October 14th at 3 p.m., we'll have another session with another release, part 2. And we're going to be enjoined, I think, we'll focus a little bit more on the choral and the vocal side of the work.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So there's some special guests planned for that. And then on October 28th at 3 p.m., Lisa will be joined by Cheryl Oring from the I Wish to Say project. So sort of bringing all the elements back together to hear the entirety of the piece. So this is just going to be thrilling to go. I'm not sure I can wait 2 weeks, but I think I'll have to. So
it doesn't exist yet, so you're going to have to.
I'm going to have to. We also wanted to just make sure that we mentioned to people that in addition to the work and the importance of commissioning new work like this, Voters Broadcast is also meant to encourage voter participation and activation. So we're asking everyone who's listening and watching today to go to headcount.org. And I think we have a slide maybe to throw up about headcount.org, or maybe we don't, but it's just like it sounds, headcount.org. You can check your voter registration there. You can make your own plans to vote. I know we've been really making those plans in our household here. It's an important time in any election, but I think especially now. So please go to headcount.org and make your plans, and you can check your voter registration as well. So Lisa, any closing thoughts today?
Keeping our democratic ideals alive and hearing from each other, understanding that there are a multiplicity of voices, and really, hearing those voices, very literally hearing those voices, is going to be inspiring to us as we all prepare to vote. So vote, please vote.
Yes, indeed. And thanks to everyone joining us today. I also want to just thank Catherine Carver, who is leading the charge for democracy and debate here at the University of Michigan. And also Christina Jensen. Lisa, working with you, Christina's been an incredible resource during all this. All of our friends at the Kaufman Music Center, at the School of Music, Theater, and Dance, and my colleagues at UMS, who've also really been helping these past few days. So thank you, Lisa. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's a big family. I love you all. Thank you.
We will see you again on October 14th. In the meantime, please stay safe and get ready to vote. Take care.